Hi, guys. Welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host, Eddie, and in tonight's video, I will be doing my episode review for episode 610 of AMC's The Walking Dead, which premiered earlier tonight. Now, before I go on and I start blabbering about that, of course, as usual with all of my episode review videos, please be warned, this will be full of spoilers. Again, this will be full of spoilers. So if you're not caught up on The Walking Dead, if you have not seen the most recent episode, or if you didn't see last week's episode, do not keep watching or listening, as I will be going into massive spoiler territory. So you have been warned. And once you do get caught up, come on back and rewatch this review video. All right, that being said, very good episode. Very good. I knew it was going to be a bit calmer than the mid-season premiere, because when you have an episode like the mid-season premiere that is so big in scale and there is so much going on, so much storytelling, you have to kind of bring it down just a tad. You don't want to make it too boring for your viewers, but you do want a good balance of character drama and horror, which I always felt this show has always mastered out. Was character drama and then the sheer horror of the situation as well. So I thought this episode was great. It was a little strange at first because we didn't know, it was a kind of confusing at first in the opening scene where we see Michonne in a bathrobe thinking, oh, are she and Rick finally together? Is this Michonne, as they like to call it, as it come to life? No, not necessarily, because I was watching with my relatives and they were asking aloud, are they together now? How long has it been? I'm like, no, they've always lived in the same house. All four of them, Rick, Michonne, Carl, and Judith have always all lived in the same house, if not with the rest of their crew. And then obviously there's been a time jump. At first, I thought it was just 2 weeks, but when the characters keep saying weeks, it's been weeks or weeks. It's like, oh, okay, so it's been a while. Not sure how long exactly, but obviously they've managed to clean up and rebuild most of Alexandria. They've probably strengthened their outer wall and their outer defenses. Life seems to be pretty calm and slow at the moment. Of course, knowing The Walking Dead, that's not going to last for long. Uh, but it was revealed, because I watched the first few minutes of Talking Dead, it was revealed right away by the actress Denai Gurira. I am so sorry that I butchered your name. Denai Gurira, the woman who plays Michonne. You guys know who I'm talking about. She confirmed once Chris Hardwick asked her how long of a time jump was there. It has been 2 months, 2 months since the last episode. So it's been 2 months since, the Anderson family died. The people of Alexandria took back their town from the Walkers, and it's been 2 months since Carl got shot in the eye. Although I did think it was a little weird how they didn't show a baby bump on Maggie, like maybe at 2 months pregnant. I'm no a doctor or anything, but it feels like there would be a tiny little bump or something, unless I missed it. Did you guys see a baby bump on her? Because she's supposed to be pregnant, so it's just I just thought that was a little weird. But anyway, no, this this episode was great. We saw Daryl and Rick's, having going out there on a supply run, just the two of them, which was awesome. And I wouldn't use the word hero and sidekick. I used the word hero and hero. It was like a cool ass team up. And of course, tonight was the big debut of the much highly anticipated character. No, not Negan, but someone else just as cool, Paul, aka Jesus Monroe. Although I was watching the episode, it was a little hard to understand if he said Monroe or Monroe V. Either way, this is a character that we've been waiting for to see on the show for a long time. I won't go into details for those of you who are not familiar with the comics. All I will say is there's some great stuff coming. With my limited knowledge of the Walking Dead universe, I know with this character, some really cool stuff is on the way. So I was very happy to see him. And I thought it was interesting how, humane he, Rick, and Daryl were all with each other. He stole their supplies. He stole their food truck. They caught up to him. They tied him up and left him, and then they took off again, only to realize he was on the roof. They get into a scuffle, and then just when you think he might shoot Daryl, I knew he wouldn't, because I knew he saw the walker approaching Daryl while they were fighting. He tells him to duck, and then shoots the walker. And Daryl looks at him, says thanks, punches him. He's like, "That's my gun." Takes the pistol back. There were a lot of great moments in tonight's episode. I thought it was interesting because from the promo, it looks like Spencer wandered out into the woods and Michonne follows like she does. And at first, when we didn't see the walker's face that approached Enid and Carl, at first I thought, oh, it must be Ron, because they don't, like Deanna said, they don't bury murderers, or Rick said they don't bury murderers within Alexandria's walls. And at first I thought it was Ron's body that they just threw out there in the wild because they didn't want to bury him for making Carl lose an eye. But later, as we find out, because Carl was so reluctant to put down this particular walker, and I thought, oh, well, he must want Ron to suffer even after in death, which makes total sense. I totally get that. He shot him in the eye. Enid wanted to put the walker down, but Carl refused. And then she's like, I don't want to come out here anymore. Like that. Kind of like that annoyed girlfriend tone she took with them. And I don't know if these two are an item necessarily. They are definitely becoming closer since Enid didn't really open up with anybody. But, I guess they were hanging out in the woods out in their special area because they had a metal case with comic books or something. And later, as we find out, Spencer had wandered out there looking for his reanimated mother. It turns out Deanna reanimated, and he thought he saw her after the initial overrunning of Alexandria, after she had turned into a walker. Because we all assumed she was eaten off screen, because the last we see of her, she's like, ah, in the hallway, standing in the hallway waiting for the walkers to rush her. But then the camera cuts, we don't see what happens to her. But obviously she turned into a walker. And this was about gaining closure for Spencer. It's like he could not move on with his life, his new life, I should say, because if you think about it, he lost his brother and father last season, and they were both deaths were pretty damn close to each other, and then he lost his mother just fairly recently. So he had lost everybody he had been with since the beginning of the apocalypse. This was his first time being on his very own. Well, not totally alone, because he still had the people of Alexandria, but in terms of like immediate family, this was him being alone, and he could not move on with his life without, putting his mother to rest. And it was kind of sad to watch, too, because when he finally got a hold of her, his reanimated dead mother, Michonne was helping restrain her. And I thought, okay, well, knife to the forehead, that usually does it. But he couldn't even do it in her forehead. He had to take the knife while holding her and then get her at the base of the skull. That's how he put her down. And then later they buried her with carving a big D in the tree. So I thought that was that was an interesting arc for Spencer's character. I'm hoping now this will make him a bit more tough, because he's been kind of a wuss these first couple episodes, but I think he's starting to come around to the harsh reality of the world, and now that he hopefully has closure by putting his mother down himself, he'll be a bit more of an interesting character. And of course, let's talk about that big moment at the end of this episode. No, it is not a character death. It was something that, has been a long time coming. Even since, God, is it going back to season 4, I think? Like halfway through season 4, people are already speculating about a Rashawn romance between Rick and Michonne. They've been teasing us about it. They've been implying it for so long, and it finally happened. It's kind of like, they're both sitting on the couch after a long day at work, so to speak. Rick and Daryl on their supply run. They fortunately made it back, but with very little supplies, and bringing Paul back with them as their prisoner after he was knocked on the head when the truck rolled backwards over him during a scuffle with Daryl, and the truck unfortunately sank at the bottom of a pond with all the food and supplies in it. Oh well. But they're talking about the end of the day, and then earlier in the beginning of the episode, Michonne asked him as a favor, keep an eye out for mints cinnamon, anything like that. They're my favorite. Rick's like, okay, you got it. Sure enough, he brings her a little thing of mints, and he hands it to her, and they soon clutch hands, and then they do that thing where two characters look at each other and then they move in for that kiss, and sure enough, it's on. The Rashawn romance has begun. They start making out, they're smiling, and then sure enough, I thought the episode would end right there like that, but no, we had a few more seconds. It showed us the following morning, or possibly later that night, they're both super naked, lying in their bed together, asleep, and then we hear a man say, Rick, Rick, and we don't know who it is because we don't recognize the voice. And then, without even covering themselves, Rick and Michonne grab their respective weapons, and it's their prisoner, Paul, the mysterious stranger, standing at the foot of the bed with his arms up, saying, "We need to talk," or it's like something like, "I think we got off on the wrong foot," or "Let's talk," or something. Overall, great episode. I know a lot of people are especially happy now that we're finally seeing a relationship, a blossoming romance between Michonne and Rick. And it feels like this was an appropriate time to begin that story arc because these two have known each other now for basically 3 seasons. She came onto the show season 3 when she first met Rick, and she's been on ever since. They've had quite a long time to become familiar with each other, to get to know one another, and they probably reached that point in their relationship where things could become intimate and romantic, and obviously they did. And Rick's probably feeling a bit lonely and vulnerable, especially since he lost his forbidden love, Jesse, in the last episode. And perhaps Michonne's been feeling a bit lonely too. So, overall, great episode. Very much enjoyed it. 2 thumbs up. Can't wait to see what they're going to do with the Jesus character and where the show goes from here. Well, guys, thank you so much again for tuning in here on the EdWord for all of your episode review and recap needs. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tune in tomorrow night possibly tomorrow night or Tuesday night, as I will be doing an episode review and recap of the mini-series finale of The X-Files, the finale which airs tomorrow night on Fox, and check your local listings for show times. All right, guys, have a great rest of the night. I hope you all get to a good start on the new week tomorrow. And of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.